Hey there all you gals and gents, this is Axolotl Aristotle here to bring you some Metroidvania goodness. Developed and published by Scumhead, Vomitorium is described as an FPS Metroidvania with a focus on atmosphere. Does it live up to its description? Let's dive in and find out. Atmospherically, the game absolutely nails the horror aesthetic it was going for. In the first 30 minutes you're subjected to a hallway with arms growing out of the walls, an area made entirely of caskets, rivers of blood, and a post-apocalyptic cityscape. The store page says that the paintings of I give up. I'm American, and we should all be banned from foreign pronunciation. But looking at these paintings, I can certainly see the resemblance. As a side note, I want to thank Scumhead for introducing me to this painter, and you guys should definitely check out his work. I'll leave a link down below. While the atmosphere and looks of the game certainly nail the horror, does the story do anything to add to it? Is it just there? Or does it take away from the overall experience? Two warnings before I continue. The first is that there will be massive spoilers ahead. And the second is that there is some extremely dark content in this game, and if stuff like sexual assault makes you uncomfortable like it does to me, I'll leave a timestamp up here right now so you can skip ahead. The opening cutscene gives a good setup. Years ago, the Vomitorium came and started corrupting everything. Three godlike races worshipped by mankind: the Masons, Umadermadine and his warriors, and the demon horrors of Concubath banded together and supposedly defeated it. But 1 year later it came back and the warriors and demons were like, "Hey, that's neat, good luck losers," and were content with just letting the world burn. But the Masons had a plan. They made the Nephilim, you, the player character. But it isn't really that simple. See, in order to make the one successful Nephilim, all the failures, and the sort of life, the Masons literally killed the entirety of humanity for their soul essence. The reason for this is the history of the world. One day Masons found a pretty flower. That flower sucked the soul essence of other plants nearby to become seemingly immortal. The Masons found the reason for this was a pentagram, and the Masons were like, "Alright, let's go get some sick tattoos," and then gave everyone pentagrams so they would live forever. See the problem with that? Since everyone had that tattoo, no one was dying. Since no one was dying, there was no soul essence by normal means, and people began to kill each other. Luckily, if you call it luck, the demon horrors showed up and started a war. The warriors met them on the battlefield and got their butts kicked. Luckily, the Masons found a way to harness the souls of fetuses and make them into batteries, the same batteries you use as health potions throughout the game. From now on, I will refer to these as fetal juice. The fetal juice gave the warriors the edge they needed to win the war, and the solution to their souls problem. Half the demon horrors were free to go, but the other half were basically forced to continually give birth to create more fetal juice. Yeah, that's kinda messed up. Fast forward right after the first rot, and the head of the warriors, Umadermadine, found an orphan girl, Eve. She was chastised by everyone growing up. He promised her a better life, and then brought her to an abandoned subway station and did some pretty illegal stuff to her, like sexual assault. Repeatedly. This guy was really messed up, and I am extremely glad that we get to kill him later in the game. Luckily for Eve, if you could even call it luck, the remainder of Vomitorium reached out to her and promised that she would be its angel. Eve agreed to this, becoming its new carrier, and led on a more vicious rot attack 1 year after the first. Finally, she found happiness in her life by killing everyone else, since everyone had abused her. Now at the start of the game, 99% of people are either dead, corrupted, or insane. The world is 99% fucked, and you're the last percentage point here to tip the scales to 100. Until the end of the game where you give Eve her human form again and bring everyone back to life. Seriously, it was so poorly handled and a huge 180 that it nearly snapped my head from the whiplash. It just kinda left a really sour taste in my mouth. It just felt like a cop-out. Like they had this really dark world and then they just got rid of it. They decided to go with a happy ending even though everything that came before it could not possibly lead to a happy ending. Before continuing, I'd like to ask if you could like and subscribe to ensure that the end of the world, these videos keep coming. Now, as we all know, a story is only half a game. For what is a game without its gameplay? As the Nephilim, you wield an arsenal capable enough to destroy the rot and corruption, while being just standard FPS gear with no innovation whatsoever. You have 3 weapon slots. The first is for your unarmed attacks, so your fist and eventually a hammer. Note that you will never ever use these for enemies, because immediately upon starting the game, you're given a pistol. The second is, big surprise, the pistol slot. It's just a pistol that eventually fires an alt ice beam. The only thing that honestly makes it unique is that you can play the Terminator theme song on it. Eventually you get an assault rifle that shares a slot with the pistol, which is alright I guess, because you'll never use the pistol again once you get a weapon with more damage and a higher rate of fire. The third slot is reserved for a pump-action shotgun, which is honestly underwhelming, and it's sad because Scum had really put an effort to make you feel like it had weight. Anytime you'd bring it out, it would land on your hands with a heavy thump. And then, after beating the Ornstein and Smo bosses of this game, it's replaced entirely by a golden double-barrel shotgun that would even make Doom Guy blush. It has a higher rate of fire than the pistol, no reload, and high levels of damage to boot. It's insane, it just one-shots most everything. Beating an optional boss even gives you the ability to have a long-range tracking fire attack to it. But aside from being generic, the arsenal shares a problem with the rest of the game. Progression. See, once you get a new weapon, it makes the last one absolutely redundant. There is no reason to use anything else again. You get higher damage, higher rate of fire, and unless you're trying to challenge yourself by using underpowered gear, it makes the gameplay boring and stagnant. Oh look, a new enemy type. Oh look, it just got mowed down like everything else due to this silly strong weapon. I don't even know what it did, or if a specific weapon is just better made to kill it, because it just goes down in like 1 to 2 hits when you get the super shotgun. Speaking of enemies, they are quite frankly beautiful in their own grotesque ways. I love how they look, especially the wolf-like enemies in the winter area. But the problem is their uniqueness ends there. They might have slightly different attacks, but at the end of the day, the game boils down to shoot this awesome looking thing once or twice with a super shotgun, or hold fire with the assault rifle for 1 to 2 seconds. There's no strategy involved, and most disappointingly, this transfers over to the bosses as well. All of them can be beaten by holding the fire button down and circle strafing. There's no strategy, no need to learn attack patterns, use the environment, or your special moves. It made me sad to see these highly intimidating monstrosities just get obliterated by some derpy boy moving to the left for 30 seconds. I don't know, maybe I've just been too spoiled by Ultrakill and its incredible boss fights. That game is probably flowered for Algernon FPS bosses for me, and I don't know how I feel about that. Anyways, progression. Vomitorium claims to be a Metroidvania, but really it's quite a shallow imitation of one. The general premise of a Metroidvania is the explore, upgrade loop, where a lot of the map is open to you, but until you get an upgrade, some specific doors and passages are blocked off. It makes you engage with the world because you constantly have to think of how to surpass this obstacle. Can this new upgrade get me past it? If not, then what does it help me to do? You end up constantly re-exploring the same areas to find new ways to interact with these things, and it gives you a great appreciation for the mechanics and environment of the game. But that doesn't happen here. In Vomitorium, you start with an arena with 4 pathways, but you can only go up to 1, and this linearity sets the tone for the entire game. You go to one area, you find the upgrade, you use it once on the door to the next area and the shortcut which leads you back to the start, and then you never use it again. Rinse and repeat. I think the most embarrassing example of this is when you get this really cool ice beam alt fire which allows you to make your own path on the toxic water, but then like 3 minutes later you just get a suit that doesn't let you take damage in the water. It's just, there's no point in exploring the world, there's no point in getting to know it. Backtracking is entirely optional. Sure, you can find the upgrades and more canisters of fetal juice, but with how easy the game is, you really don't have to. In fact, I'd advise against backtracking for the most part because unlike in every other Metroidvania ever, once you kill an enemy, it stays dead. This leaves the world feeling completely empty later in the game, and makes backtracking even more of a hassle because there's nothing to do, nothing to keep you invested, engaged, and paying attention. Exploration itself is even discouraged as a concept. The game gives you a double jump and dash, but with how many invisible walls and ceilings there were, exploring would often just leave you with disappointment. It's a real shame too, because some of the areas appear to be so open-ended and the movement feels fluid, and you want to explore, but if you jump off the beaten path, the game waggles its finger at you, says no no no, and puts you back on the linear path. It makes you go the way it wants you to do. There is no room for variation. As far as other complaints and bugs are concerned, I don't have that many actually. The map is serviceable, but it doesn't tell you what area is what. It doesn't have a legend, and finding where you are can be a chore. Its only redeeming quality was that it told you how many enemies there were and how many secrets the game had in total. Your flashlight is a little creature that is completely necessary for a pitch black area, but it made the entire journey annoying because it didn't stay with you constantly. You have to slog along one step at a time, or risk walking to an enemy because it's pitch black otherwise, because the creature is just so slow in following you. I don't know why Scumhead did this. Just give us a low beam flashlight or a lantern, something that illuminates some of the screen constantly, and not a poorly pathed, poorly scripted AI that takes a few seconds to realize that it even has to follow you. Finally, the only bug I think I encountered was with the final boss. It didn't have a health bar. It could have been intentional, but it seems odd considering every other boss did. I honestly really wanted to like this game. I was hyped for it as soon as I played the demo 5 months ago. I love it artistically, the atmosphere is great. But the story, the shooting, the gameplay, it all feels so poor and generic. It's just a linear map, no incentive to backtrack, easy to kill enemies and bosses. And then at the very end you get slapped in the face by the happy and cheerful ending. If you want to admire this game's art, I'd say go for it, but only when there's a sale. I can't, in good faith, recommend this game at full price for what it is. Thank you for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please remember to like and subscribe. I'd also love to hear your thoughts in the comments below. If you wanted another way to support this channel, I also have a Patreon with numerous tiers and rewards like having your name at the end of my videos. Making reviews like these is a blast, and I can do it on a much more consistent basis with your support.